I'm Madison, 24. I still remember exactly what it felt like, riding the subway alone to my college graduation in the rain, while my parents drove my little brother to pick up his brand new Tesla, a gift for raising his GPA to 2.8 his freshman year. That was the day I realized I'd spent my entire life being the backup character in my own family's story. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. And truly, thank you for being here. I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, where most families lived well, but tried not to show off about it. My father, Robert Wells, worked as a senior investment banker on Wall Street, pulling in a salary that put us firmly in the upper class. My mother, Patricia, owned a chain of boutique yoga studios that catered to wealthy housewives looking for their next spiritual awakening between Pilates sessions and charity lunches. We lived in a 6-bedroom colonial with a circular driveway and manicured gardens that required a full-time landscaping crew. From the outside, we were the picture-perfect American success story. But inside those walls, there was a clear hierarchy, and I learned my place in it early. My brother Logan was the golden child from the moment he took his first breath. 3 years younger than me, he somehow commanded every room he entered in ways I never could. He had our mother's easy charm and natural charisma, our father's quick wit, and this magnetic confidence that I both envied and couldn't understand. I, on the other hand, was what my parents called the responsible one. Studious, quiet, and according to my mother, far too serious for my own good. The pattern started when I was barely old enough to understand what was happening. When I was 8 and Logan was 5, I remember our parents filming every second of his first Little League game, cheering from the bleachers as he struck out 3 times and spent most of the game picking dandelions in right field. 2 weeks later, they missed my school's Academic Excellence Awards ceremony, where I received recognition for achieving the highest test scores in 2nd grade. Logan had been running a slight fever that morning, so naturally they stayed home to monitor his temperature. "There will be other award ceremonies, honey," my mother assured me when I showed them my certificate that evening. They glanced at it briefly while helping Logan build an elaborate fort out of couch cushions. "That's wonderful, Madison," my father said, not looking up from the architectural marvel they were constructing. "Look how creative your brother is with spatial relationships." By middle school, the differences became impossible to ignore. Logan's bedroom was redecorated annually to match his evolving interests. A sports theme one year, then outer space, then a sophisticated gaming setup complete with professional-grade equipment. My furniture remained the same twin bed and desk set from elementary school, with my parents promising we'd update it soon, every time I brought it up. When I brought home straight A's quarter after quarter, my father would nod approvingly and say, "That's exactly what we expect from you, Madison. You're naturally gifted academically." When Logan managed to scrape together B's and C's, they'd take him out for celebration dinners at his favorite steakhouse, praising his dramatic improvement and growing maturity. The most telling example came when we turned 16. For my birthday, we had a modest family dinner at a nice restaurant in town. I received practical gifts: a laptop for schoolwork, some clothes for my internship at a local law firm, and a promise that they'd help me look for a reliable used car when I saved up enough for the down payment. 3 years later, Logan's 16th birthday was a catered event in our backyard. They hired a DJ, invited 40 of his closest friends, and the party centered around the big reveal: a brand new Honda Accord sitting in our driveway with an enormous red bow on the hood. When I pointed out the difference in celebration scale, my mother looked genuinely confused. "Logan's more social, sweetie. He needs these experiences to build confidence and maintain his friendships. You've always been such an independent spirit. We thought you'd appreciate a more intimate celebration." 4 months after Logan got his Honda, my parents finally helped me buy my first car, a 10-year-old Toyota Camry with 150,000 miles and a transmission that made concerning noises whenever I shifted into reverse. "It has character," my father said, patting the rusted hood, "and it'll teach you about car maintenance and responsibility." Throughout high school, the pattern continued and intensified. My parents attended every single one of Logan's baseball games, even the away tournaments that required overnight travel. They made it to exactly 3 of my debate team competitions, despite my team advancing to the state finals 2 years running. When I was accepted to Columbia University with a partial academic scholarship, My parents seemed more interested in Logan's upcoming junior prom than my college acceptance. "Of course you got into Columbia," my mother said, barely glancing up from her laptop where she was researching tuxedo rental options. "You've always been brilliant. Now, do you think Logan should go with the classic black or try something more modern? This is such an important social milestone for him." The only person who truly saw me during those years was my grandmother Carol, my mother's mother. She was a retired high school principal who valued education and hard work above everything else. When my parents missed my valedictorian speech because Logan had a baseball tournament 3 hours away, Grandma Carol drove down from Vermont and sat in the front row, beaming with pride. "They don't see what I see in you," she told me afterward, squeezing my hand as we stood together in the parking lot, while my parents texted updates about Logan's game. "But someday, Madison, you'll build a life where your worth is recognized and celebrated. And it will be extraordinary." I held on to those words throughout my college years, while Logan followed me to university life with dramatically different experiences than mine. My college experience was defined by work-study programs and careful budgeting. I worked 25 hours a week at the campus library, tutored underclassmen for extra money, and spent summers doing unpaid internships that would look good on my resume. I lived in the cheapest dorm freshman year, then moved to a shared apartment off campus with 3 roommates to save money. I maintained a 3.95 GPA while working, survived on generic brand everything, and learned to make elaborate meals out of rice, beans, and whatever vegetables were on sale that week. Logan's college experience, which I followed through his extensive social media presence, looked like something out of a movie about privileged youth. He lived in the expensive dorms freshman year, then moved to a luxury apartment complex popular with fraternity members. He pledged the most expensive fraternity on campus, went on spring break trips to Cabo and Aspen, and changed his major 4 times while maintaining what he generously called a solid C+ average. My parents paid his full tuition, rent, and gave him a monthly allowance that exceeded what I made working 25 hours a week. Throughout all of this, I told myself that someday they would see my accomplishments. Someday they would be proud of me the way they were proud of Logan's most basic achievements. As my college graduation approached after 4 grueling years of balancing work, studies, and unpaid internships, I thought maybe, just maybe, this would be that moment. I had secured interviews with 3 prestigious consulting firms in Boston. I was graduating summa cum laude with a degree in economics. Surely now they would see me. I was wrong, but I had no idea just how wrong until the day I discovered what they'd really been doing with my future. My final semester at Columbia was a relentless cycle of job interviews, senior thesis research, and picking up extra tutoring shifts to save money for post-graduation expenses. While my classmates were enjoying senior week festivities and planning elaborate graduation parties, I was working double shifts at the library and trying to figure out how to afford a security deposit on an apartment in Boston. My ancient Toyota had finally given up completely, leaving me dependent on the subway and occasional Uber rides when I absolutely had to get somewhere the trains didn't reach. 3 weeks before graduation, I called my parents to discuss logistics for the big day. "Mom, I need to talk about transportation for graduation," I said, pacing around my tiny shared bedroom while my roommate studied for finals on her bed. "The ceremony's at Columbia, and I need to be there early for the honors procession." "Oh, honey," my mother replied, and I could hear her typing on her keyboard in the background. "Can't you just take the subway like always? We're actually busy that weekend picking up a surprise for Logan." "A surprise?" I asked, switching the phone to my other ear. "What kind of surprise?" "You'll see when we get there," she said, with the kind of excitement I'd never heard in her voice when discussing anything related to me. "It's going to be absolutely perfect. We'll all drive down together for your graduation." In the background, I could hear my father's voice. "Tell her about the premium package." "Dad," I said, "what premium package?" "Nothing, sweetie," my mother said quickly. "We're just excited to celebrate both of you this weekend." "Oh, your father wants to say hi." My father got on the line, slightly out of breath like he'd been rushing around. "Madison, how's the job search going? Any word from those firms?" "Still waiting to hear back," I said. "But about graduation transportation—" "I'm sure you'll figure something out," he interrupted. "You always do. You're so independent and resourceful. Listen, we've got to run. We're heading to the dealership to finalize some paperwork. We'll see you at graduation." They hung up before I could ask what dealership or what paperwork. 2 days later, I took the train home to Greenwich to pick up some documents I needed for one of my job applications. My parents weren't expecting me, and as I let myself in through the side door, I heard them talking excitedly in the kitchen. "Logan's going to absolutely lose his mind when he sees it," my father was saying. "A Tesla Model S. That's serious car." "The blue is perfect," my mother agreed. "And the salesman said we can have it ready by Friday, just in time to drive to Madison's graduation. Logan can show it off to all his friends at Columbia." I froze in the hallway, my heart pounding so hard I was sure they'd hear it. "Don't you think it's a bit excessive for a sophomore?" my father asked, though his tone suggested he'd already been convinced. "Robert, Logan pulled his GPA up to a 2.8 this year, while adjusting to fraternity life and all his social commitments," my mother replied. "That shows real growth and maturity. Besides, his Honda is already 3 years old, and all his fraternity brothers are getting new cars for sophomore year. We don't want him to feel left out." I must have made some noise because they both looked up, startled to see me standing in the doorway. "Madison," my mother said, quickly closing the laptop they'd been looking at. "We didn't hear you come in." "I came to get my transcripts," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "What's this about a Tesla?" Before they could answer, the front door burst open and Logan jogged in, wearing his fraternity letters and carrying a lacrosse stick. "Mom! Dad!" he called out, not noticing me at first. Brandon's parents just got him a BMW for maintaining a 3.0, and Jake's getting an Audi. "Please tell me you guys are planning something good for my—" He stopped short when he saw me. "Oh, hey Madison, what are you doing here?" My parents exchanged a look that confirmed everything I'd overheard. "Actually," my mother said, her real estate smile sliding into place, "since everyone's here, we might as well share the news." She put her arm around Logan's shoulders. "Logan, honey, in recognition of your improved academic performance this year, and since Madison's graduating next week, we're getting you a Tesla Model S," my father finished, beaming with pride. Blue exterior, premium interior package, the works. Logan literally jumped up and down, whooping loud enough that our neighbors probably heard him. "Are you serious? A Tesla? Oh my God, wait until the guys hear about this." I stood there, invisible once again, watching my family celebrate a purchase that cost more than I'd made in 2 years of work-study jobs. Not only were they buying Logan a luxury car as a reward for barely passing his classes, but they were somehow connecting it to my graduation, an event that was supposed to be about celebrating my achievements. "See, Madison," Logan said, turning to me with a smirk. "Some of us actually get rewarded for our hard work." I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but my mother cut me off. "We'll pick it up Friday and drive down to your graduation in style on Saturday," she said to me. "Won't that be fun? Logan can give everyone a tour of his new car after the ceremony." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Not only was my graduation being overshadowed by Logan's latest gift, but they hadn't even considered how I would get to my own ceremony. I was just expected to ride along in Logan's new Tesla, like some kind of afterthought. "I need to get my papers," I mumbled, fleeing toward the stairs before they could see the tears burning my eyes. As I stuffed my transcripts into my bag, I could hear them upstairs continuing their excited discussion about features and delivery logistics. That night, back in my dorm room, I broke down while telling my roommate Sarah what had happened. "They're buying your teenage brother a Tesla while you've been eating ramen for 4 years? Sarah was furious on my behalf. "And they didn't even think about how you're getting to graduation?" "Madison, that's beyond messed up." "Maybe I'm overreacting," I said, wiping my eyes with a tissue. "They've always been this way. Maybe it's normal." "Normal?" Sarah stared at me. "Madison, none of this is normal. You need to stand up for yourself. Tell them how you feel." "What's the point?" I asked. "They don't hear me. They never have." "Then make them hear you," Sarah said firmly. "You're graduating summa cum laude from Columbia while working 25 hours a week. You've been supporting yourself while Logan parties on their dime. If they can't see your worth, you need to show them." I nodded, but as graduation day approached, my anxiety only grew. Would I finally find the courage to speak up? Or would I stay silent as I had for 24 years? The Friday before graduation dawned clear and bright, one of those perfect May mornings in New York, when the city feels full of possibility. I had my final exam that morning, advanced econometrics. And despite the knot in my stomach that had been there since discovering Logan's Tesla surprise, I managed to focus long enough to ace it. Excellent work as always, Ms. Wells, Professor Chen said as I handed in my exam. I don't think I've ever had a student master these concepts quite so thoroughly. You should be very proud. I smiled, grateful for the recognition. Thank you, Professor Chen. Your class has been invaluable. After the exam, I headed to my final shift at the campus library, where my supervisor had arranged a small goodbye gathering with the staff. They'd gotten me a card signed by everyone and a beautiful leather portfolio for job interviews. We're really going to miss you around here, Thomas said, handing me the gift. 4 years without a single missed shift or complaint. You've set the bar impossibly high for whoever replaces you. I blinked back tears, touched by the gesture. Thank you all so much. This job has been a lifeline for me. After saying my goodbyes, I checked my phone to find 5 missed calls from my mother. I called her back as I walked toward the subway. Madison, finally, she answered on the first ring. We're at the Tesla dealership right now. Logan's car is absolutely stunning. Blue metallic exterior with white vegan leather interior. Premium everything. That's great, I managed, swallowing the lump in my throat. About tomorrow, she continued. The ceremony starts at 2 p.m., right? We'll need to leave Greenwich early to find parking. Your father thinks we should be there by noon to get good seats. Mom, I said, stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. I need to be there by 10 a.m. for the honors procession. I've been trying to tell you about transportation for weeks. There was a pause. Oh, she said, as if this thought had genuinely never occurred to her. Well, we'll be busy getting Logan's Tesla detailed and ready for its first big trip. Can't you just take the subway? There's a direct line from campus, isn't there? I stood there, stunned by her casual suggestion. You want me to take the subway to my college graduation, in my cap and gown? It's just practical, honey, she said. Everyone else will be in Logan's new Tesla, and there won't be room if we need to bring your grandmother too. The subway is perfectly reliable transportation. The world seemed to tilt around me. Everyone else, as if I weren't part of the family, as if I were some distant acquaintance who needed to find her own way to the event. You're suggesting I ride the subway to my graduation while my younger brother drives his brand new Tesla to my graduation ceremony, I said, unable to keep the hurt and anger from my voice. Don't be so dramatic, Madison, my mother sighed. You've always been so independent. I thought you'd appreciate handling your own transportation instead of having to rely on us. In the background, I could hear Logan and my father laughing about something, completely oblivious to our conversation. I have to go, I said, my voice thick with unshed tears. Logan's big day is waiting. It's the practical solution, my mother repeated, either missing or ignoring my sarcasm. We'll see you at the ceremony tomorrow. Don't forget to wear that navy dress under your gown. I hung up and stood frozen on the sidewalk, people streaming past me on their way to Friday evening activities. A mixture of emotions washed over me. Shock, hurt, anger, and finally, a strange sense of clarity. This was who my parents were. This had always been who they were. No achievement of mine would ever measure up to Logan's mere existence. I dialed my grandmother's number with shaking hands. Grandma Carol, it's Madison. There's my graduate. Her warm voice instantly provided comfort. Are you ready for tomorrow? They're making me take the subway, I blurted out, tears finally spilling over, to my own graduation, because they're busy with Logan's new Tesla. There was a long pause before my grandmother spoke, her voice unusually hard. They did what? Through broken sobs, I explained everything. The Tesla, the transportation issue, years of being overlooked and undervalued. Oh, my darling girl, Grandma Carol said when I finished. I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I've watched this pattern for too long. Your mother went through something similar with her sister when they were growing up. What do? I asked, feeling like a lost child despite being a college graduate. You have 2 choices, she said firmly. You can either continue to accept their treatment, or you can start setting boundaries. Neither is easy, but only one leads to healing. I'm so tired of being invisible, I whispered. Then stop allowing them to look past you, she replied. But whatever you decide, know that I see you, Madison. I've always seen you, and I am so tremendously proud of the woman you've become, with or without their recognition. After talking with my grandmother, I returned to my dorm and spent the evening preparing for graduation. I carefully ironed my graduation gown, polished my dress shoes, and set out the navy dress my mother had insisted I wear, a sensible number that wouldn't draw attention to myself. As I hung up the gown, my phone pinged with a text from my childhood friend Emma. "Can't wait to see you walk tomorrow. You've worked so hard for this. Let me know if you need anything at all." I stared at the message, grateful for the people who did value me. Perhaps that was the key, focusing on those who saw me rather than lamenting those who didn't. I set my alarm for 7 a.m., determined to get through graduation with dignity, even if it meant taking the subway in my cap and gown. Tomorrow would be my day, even if my family couldn't see that. And maybe, just maybe, it would also be the day I finally found my voice. The morning of graduation, I woke before my alarm, sunlight filtering through the thin curtains of my dorm room. For a brief, blissful moment, I felt only excitement. I was graduating from Columbia today, the culmination of 4 years of hard work and determination. Then reality crashed back, as I remembered I'd be taking the subway to my own ceremony. I checked my phone to find congratulatory texts from friends and professors, and a single message from my mother. "Don't forget we're meeting by the main entrance at 1:30. Logan wants to take family photos with his new car before the ceremony." No congratulations, no, "we're proud of you." Just logistics centered around Logan and his Tesla. I took a deep breath and got ready, carefully applying makeup and styling my hair before putting on the navy dress and my honors cords. As I placed the cap on my head and looked in the mirror, I felt a surge of pride. Despite everything, I had done this. Me. Not my parents' money or connections. Just my own hard work and persistence. My roommates had already left for their own graduation preparations, each picked up by their families. The dorm was quiet as I gathered my things, took one last look around the room that had been home for 4 years, and headed out to catch the subway. The morning was overcast, typical May weather in Manhattan, with a light drizzle starting to fall as I walked to the subway station. I clutched my cap to keep it from getting wet, already feeling droplets soaking into my gown. At the subway station, I had to navigate the turnstiles carefully to avoid catching my gown, drawing curious looks from other passengers. A businessman in an expensive suit smiled at me as I boarded the train. "Graduating today?" he asked kindly. "Yes," I replied, trying to sound cheerful. "Columbia." "Congratulations," he said. "My daughter graduated from there 3 years ago. Your parents must be so proud." I forced a smile and nodded, not trusting my voice to remain steady. The train car filled with the usual Friday morning commuters, but several passengers offered congratulations when they noticed my graduation attire. An elderly woman insisted I take her seat, patting my hand as I sat down. "I remember my graduation day 50 years ago," she said with a wistful smile. "Cherish this moment, dear. You've earned it." The kindness of these strangers brought tears to my eyes, their recognition somehow more meaningful than anything my family had offered. As the train pulled into the Columbia station, my phone buzzed with a text from Logan. "OMG, the Tesla is amazing. Everyone's stopping to stare. Dad's letting me drive everyone to your thing. So excited for people to see it." Attached was a video of him revving the engine in our driveway, our parents beaming proudly in the background. I turned off my phone and slipped it into my purse, unwilling to let it spoil this moment. The walk from the subway to campus brought back memories of other times I'd felt overlooked. My 16th birthday when my parents forgot to pick me up from my debate tournament because they were shopping for Logan's new gaming setup. My high school graduation when they arrived late and left early for Logan's baseball game. Countless achievements met with distracted acknowledgement, while Logan's smallest accomplishments were celebrated elaborately. Yet amid these painful memories, I found myself thinking about the elderly woman's words on the train. "You've earned it." Perhaps it was time I truly believed that. Campus was already crowded with graduates and their families. Through the windows of passing cars, I could see proud parents taking photos, grandparents carrying flowers, siblings holding congratulatory signs. A lump formed in my throat, but I swallowed it down. Today was still my achievement, even if my family couldn't recognize it properly. As I approached the graduate assembly area, I spotted Sarah waiting by the entrance, scanning the crowd. "Madison," she called, rushing over. I was worried when I didn't see your family's car. Did you really take the subway? Family tradition, I said wryly, straightening my slightly damp cap. Sarah's expression darkened. They really made you take public transportation while they're driving around in a brand new Tesla? That's beyond messed up. It's fine, I said automatically, then corrected myself. Actually, no, it's not fine, but I'm not going to let it ruin today. That's my girl, Sarah said, linking her arm through mine. And just so you know, my parents want to take us both out for dinner after the ceremony. They insist. I felt a rush of gratitude for Sarah and her family, who had always made me feel welcome and valued. As we walked toward the graduate assembly area, I felt simultaneously drained and determined. The subway ride had given me time to reflect on years of inequality and overlooked achievements. But it had also shown me the kindness of strangers and reminded me that I wasn't alone, even if my own family couldn't see me clearly. Ready to graduate? Sarah asked as we approached the sea of black gowns and caps. More than ready, I replied, squaring my shoulders. It's time. The graduate assembly area buzzed with excitement as hundreds of soon-to-be alumni adjusted their caps, straightened their honors cords, and took selfies with friends. I lined up with the other economics majors, trying to focus on the momentous occasion rather than my family situation. Where are your folks? Asked Tyler, a classmate I'd worked with on several group projects during our senior year. They're coming separately, I said vaguely, adjusting my cap. Meeting up after the ceremony. Mine too, added Jessica, another economics major. My parents are divorced and insisted on sitting on opposite sides of the auditorium so they don't have to see each other. Everyone laughed, sharing stories of family drama and graduation logistics. I smiled along, but remained quiet, not wanting to explain that my family was late because they were busy showing off my brother's new Tesla. Through the windows of the assembly hall, I could see families streaming toward the main auditorium. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Running a bit late. Where should we park? Is there special graduation parking for the Tesla? I didn't bother responding. Let them figure it out themselves for once. As we lined up alphabetically for the procession, I caught sight of my family finally arriving through the main entrance. 25 minutes late and making quite a scene. Logan led the way in a sharp navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly food budget, followed by my parents, who looked like they were attending a red carpet event rather than a graduation ceremony. Several heads turned to watch their entrance, exactly the kind of attention Logan thrived on. I could see him pointing out his Tesla to other families in the parking lot through the windows. The ceremony began with pomp and circumstance playing as we marched into the auditorium. Despite everything, I felt a swell of emotion as I entered. The culmination of years of hard work embodied in this moment. The university president welcomed everyone, then introduced the commencement speaker, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a renowned economist and Columbia alumna. Dr. Rodriguez approached the podium with confidence, surveying the graduates with a warm smile. Today I want to talk about something they don't teach in economics classes, she began. Your intrinsic value. I straightened in my seat, suddenly alert. Society often measures worth through external validation. The car you drive, the house you live in, the recognition you receive from others. But true value comes from within. It's built through perseverance, integrity, and self-belief, especially when no one else is watching. Her words seemed to pierce directly through me, as if she were speaking to my exact situation. Some of you have had every advantage: financial support, family connections, endless encouragement. Others have fought for every inch of progress, often unseen and uncelebrated. To those students especially, I say this: the fact that others failed to recognize your light doesn't make it shine any less brightly. In fact, the struggle to be seen often creates the most resilient, compassionate leaders. Tears welled in my eyes as Dr. Rodriguez continued, her message resonating with everything I'd been feeling. Your worth is not determined by others' ability to see it. Remember that as you move forward into a world that will continue to overlook quiet excellence in favor of flashy mediocrity. The rest of her speech blurred as I processed her words. Had I been allowing my parents' perception to define my worth all these years? The revelation felt simultaneously painful and liberating. When it came time for graduates to cross the stage, I took a deep breath and prepared myself. Row by row, we stood and filed toward the stage. As my row was called, I scanned the audience, spotting my family in the middle section. My mother was checking her phone, my father was looking at his watch, and Logan was taking selfies. None of them were watching the stage. Madison Wells, Bachelor of Arts in Economics, summa cum laude, the dean announced as I stepped onto the stage. I expected to cross in relative silence like many others before me. Instead, I heard a thunderous cheer from the back of the auditorium. Startled, I looked up to see my grandmother Carol standing despite her arthritis, applauding wildly. Beside her were Sarah's parents and several of my library co-workers, including Thomas. They held up a banner. "Congratulations, Madison. We see you." Emotion overwhelmed me as I accepted my diploma. Tears flowing freely now. These people, some related by blood, others by circumstance, had made the effort to be here, fully present for me. They saw me, they celebrated me, and in that moment, it was enough. As I returned to my seat, I glanced at my family. My parents looked confused and slightly embarrassed by the unexpected cheering section. Logan appeared annoyed that attention had been diverted from his Tesla for once. For the first time in years, I didn't care about their reaction. After the ceremony, graduates flooded into the courtyard to meet their families. I found my grandmother first, pulling her into a tight hug. "You came," I whispered, still in disbelief. "Your doctor said the trip from Vermont would be too much with your hip replacement." "Wild horses couldn't have kept me away," Grandma Carol replied, cupping my face in her hands. "I'm so proud of you, my brilliant granddaughter." Thomas and my other co-workers offered congratulations before tactfully withdrawing to give me time with family. Sarah's parents insisted on taking photos of me with my diploma, treating the moment with the reverence it deserved. It was in this warm bubble of genuine celebration that my parents and Logan finally found me. "There you are," my mother exclaimed, as if I'd been the one who was difficult to locate. "We've been looking everywhere. Who were all those people cheering for you? It was a bit much, don't you think?" "Those were people who wanted to celebrate with me," I said simply. "Well, we need to take family photos by Logan's Tesla before the parking meter expires," my father said, checking his watch again. "The car is parked in the VIP section. Had to pay extra, but it's worth it for the statement it makes." "Seriously, Madison, wait until you see it," Logan gushed, completely oblivious to the significance of the day. "The interior is incredible. 3 people have already asked if I'm some kind of influencer doing a Tesla promotion." Something inside me finally snapped. Quietly, definitively. For 24 years, I had worked myself to exhaustion. For 24 years, I had maintained near-perfect grades while working part-time jobs. For 24 years, I had watched my brother get everything handed to him while I struggled. And now, on what should have been my day, they couldn't even pretend to care about my achievement. "No," I said. The word came out clear and firm. "No what?" my mother asked, already turning toward the parking lot. "No, I will not take family photos by Logan's Tesla on my graduation day." My father frowned. "Don't be difficult, Madison. It's just a few pictures." "It's never been just about pictures," I said, my voice gaining strength. "It's about a lifetime of being treated as less than. It's about you buying my teenage brother a luxury car while making me take the subway to my own graduation. It's about showing up late to my ceremony because you were too busy fawning over Logan and his new toy." "That's not fair," my mother protested, looking around nervously as nearby families glanced our way. "We've always supported you." "Have you?" I asked, surprising myself with my calm. "When was the last time you attended any event that mattered to me without checking your watch or leaving early for something of Logan's? When have you ever celebrated my achievements with even half the enthusiasm you show for his mediocre ones?" "I got good grades this year," Logan interjected, indignant. "A 2.8 is way better than my freshman year." "You got a 2.8 while living in a luxury apartment Dad pays for, with a monthly allowance that exceeds what I make working 25 hours a week," I replied. "And for that, you got a Tesla." "I graduated summa cum laude while working throughout college, and I got a subway token." My father's face reddened. "That's completely different. Logan needs more support. You've always been independent." "I had to be independent," I said quietly. "You never gave me any other choice." "Is that what this is about?" my mother asked, her voice rising. "A car? If you wanted a car, you should have said something." "This isn't about the car," my grandmother interjected, stepping forward. "This is about seeing your daughter, really seeing her, for the first time in 24 years." My parents turned to her in surprise, as if just noticing her presence. "Mom, this isn't the place," my mother began. "If not now, when?" Grandma Carol interrupted. "I've watched this pattern for decades. Patricia, you went through the exact same thing with your sister when you were growing up. And now you're continuing the cycle with your own daughters." My mother paled at the mention of her sister, my Aunt Lisa, who had limited contact with our family. "Madison has worked harder than anyone I know," my grandmother continued. "She deserved to have her parents drive her to graduation at minimum. She deserved celebration, recognition, and respect, not to be an afterthought to Logan's new car." A small crowd had gathered, watching the drama unfold. I felt Sarah slip her hand into mine, standing beside me in silent support. "I need to go," I said suddenly, exhausted by the confrontation. "Sarah's family has invited me to a graduation dinner, people who actually want to celebrate with me." "Madison, you can't just walk away from your family," my father protested. "Watch me," I replied, then turned to leave with Sarah and my grandmother following behind us. As we walked away, I heard Logan ask in a confused voice, "So are we not taking pictures with the Tesla?" And for the first time in years, I found myself laughing, genuinely laughing at the absurdity of it all. In standing up for myself, I discovered a strength I hadn't known I possessed. Whether my family recognized my worth or not, I finally did. Sarah's parents took us to a beautiful restaurant overlooking the Hudson River. They ordered champagne, made heartfelt toast to my achievement, and treated me like family. Grandma Carol joined us, her eyes twinkling with pride every time she looked my way. For those few hours, I allowed myself to bask in the celebration I deserved. "To Madison," Sarah's father said, raising his glass, "whose determination and brilliance will take her wherever she wants to go." "And who finally found her voice today," Grandma Carol added with a wink. By the time we finished dinner, my phone showed 18 missed calls and 37 text messages from my parents and Logan. I silenced it and slipped it back into my purse. Whatever crisis they were experiencing could wait until tomorrow. Today was mine. Sarah offered to let me stay at her parents' hotel, but I declined. I needed to face my dorm room and whatever awaited me there on my own terms. "Remember," Grandma Carol said, squeezing my hand before getting into Sarah's parents' car, "standing up for yourself isn't a one-time event. It's a practice. Be gentle with yourself if you falter." I nodded, grateful for her wisdom, and took the subway back to campus. As I rounded the corner onto my street, I saw my parents' Mercedes parked outside my dorm building. They were sitting inside, waiting. Taking a deep breath, I got off at the next stop and walked back. My mother spotted me first, nudging my father who had been dozing in the passenger seat. They scrambled out, both looking uncharacteristically disheveled. "Madison," my mother rushed toward me. "We've been calling for hours. Where have you been?" "At my graduation dinner," I replied calmly, "with people who wanted to celebrate with me." "We need to talk," my father said, his authoritative tone returning. "This scene you caused today was completely inappropriate. Let's go inside," I suggested, not wanting to have this conversation in the street. My roommates are gone for the weekend. Once in my dorm room, my parents took in the modest surroundings with poorly concealed dismay. My father paced the small space while my mother perched uncomfortably on Sarah's desk chair. "Madison," my father began, "I understand you were upset about transportation arrangements today, but publicly embarrassing your family was unacceptable." "Is that what you think happened?" I asked. "That I was throwing a tantrum over a ride? What else could it be?" My mother threw up her hands. "We've given you everything. We paid for your education." "I had a scholarship," I interrupted, "and I worked 25 hours a week to cover living expenses." "We would have helped if you'd asked," my father countered. "You've always been so independent, so capable. Logan needs more support." "No," I said firmly. "Logan gets more support. There's a difference." "That's ridiculous," my mother scoffed. "We've always treated you both fairly." "Really?" I walked to my closet and pulled out a shoebox I'd kept hidden under my winter clothes. "Let me show you something." I opened the box and began laying out items on my desk. A birthday card from when I turned 16 with a $25 gift card inside, next to a photo of Logan's 16th birthday party, showing him with his new Honda. My high school graduation program alongside a bank receipt, showing the $100 my parents had deposited as a congratulations gift. A newspaper clipping of Logan's baseball team with my parents, prominently featured in the stands. while my debate team's state championship went unmentioned in our local paper because they hadn't bothered to contact the media. This is a record of inequality, I said quietly, not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small ones over many years. My parents stared at the items, momentarily speechless. "You kept all this?" my mother finally asked, her voice small. "Not to throw it in your faces someday," I explained, but to remind myself that I wasn't imagining things, that the difference in how you treated us was real. Before they could respond, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Grandma Carol, who must have taken a taxi from her hotel. "I thought you might need reinforcements," she said, stepping inside. Her eyes narrowed when she saw my parents. "I see the conversation has started." "Mom, this isn't your business," my mother began. "When my granddaughter takes the subway to her college graduation while you parade around with Logan in a brand new Tesla, it becomes my business," Grandma Carol replied sharply. "Patricia, you're repeating exactly what your father did to you and Lisa." My mother flinched at the comparison. "That's completely different, is it?" Grandma Carol asked. "Your father favored you because you were outgoing and social like him. You favor Logan for the same reason. Lisa was studious and quiet like Madison. You resented how your father treated Lisa, yet here you are, doing the same thing to your own daughter." A heavy silence fell over the room. My father, who had been defensive throughout, finally spoke. "Madison has always seemed fine," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "She never complained." "She shouldn't have to complain to be treated equally," Grandma Carol pointed out. "I thought," my mother began, then stopped, staring at the items on the desk. "I thought because you were successful on your own, you didn't need as much from us. I thought we were giving you space to be independent." "I needed parents," I said simply, "not space." My father ran his hand through his hair, looking genuinely troubled for the first time. "The Tesla was excessive, wasn't it? Even for Logan." "It's not just about the Tesla," I said, though I appreciated that he was finally starting to understand. "It's about 24 years of being told I was too sensitive when I pointed out unfairness. It's about working multiple jobs while Logan got handed everything. It's about taking the subway to my graduation, while you bought him a luxury car for barely passing his classes." "What do you want from us now?" my mother asked. And I was surprised to see tears in her eyes. "How do we fix this?" "I don't know if you can fix 24 years of inequality overnight," I admitted, "but acknowledging it is a start. And understanding that going forward, our relationship will have boundaries." "Boundaries?" My father looked alarmed. "What does that mean?" "It means I won't accept being treated as less than Logan anymore. It means I'll call out favoritism when I see it. And it means I might need distance sometimes to protect myself." My parents exchanged worried glances. This was new territory for all of us. "I've accepted a position at a consulting firm in Boston," I continued. "I'll be moving next month. Not to punish you, but because I need a fresh start." "Boston," my mother repeated. "But that's 4 hours away." "4 hours is nothing if you actually want to visit," I pointed out. "And there are these amazing inventions called phones that work across state lines." My father almost smiled at that. "You've really thought this through." "I've had years to think about it," I replied. "I just never had the courage to say it out loud." We talked for another hour, moving through decades of hurt and misunderstanding. There were no perfect resolutions, no tearful group hugs like in the movies. My parents didn't suddenly transform into the perfectly supportive mother and father I'd always wanted. But there was something new in the way they listened, really listened, perhaps for the first time. As they prepared to leave, my mother hesitated at the door. "I never meant to make you feel less loved," she said softly. I think I saw too much of myself in Logan and too much of Lisa in you. And I projected all my complicated feelings about my own childhood onto that dynamic. I know you didn't do it maliciously," I acknowledged. "But impact matters more than intent." After they left, Grandma Carol stayed a while longer, helping me process the conversation. "Do you think anything will change?" I asked her. "People can change," she said thoughtfully. "But it takes time and consistent effort. Don't expect miracles, but don't close the door on progress either." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text. To my surprise, it was from Logan. "Can we talk? Just us?" 20 minutes later, Logan knocked on my door, looking uncharacteristically subdued. Without our parents as an audience, He seemed younger, more uncertain. I heard everything, he admitted, sitting across from me on Sarah's bed. I was waiting in the car, but then I followed Mom and Dad up. I stood in the hallway listening. And, I prompted when he fell silent. And I never realized, he said, picking at his perfectly manicured fingernails. I knew I got more stuff, but I don't know what I thought. That you didn't care about material things, that you were above it all somehow. I'm not above wanting to be valued, I said quietly. Logan nodded, looking genuinely troubled. I've been pretty awful, haven't I? You were a kid responding to the dynamic our parents created, I said, surprising myself with the generosity of the statement. We both were. Still, he bit his lip. I'm sorry, Madison, and… He hesitated. I told Dad I don't want the Tesla. It feels gross now. I raised an eyebrow, genuinely shocked. Really? Don't look so surprised, he said, with a hint of his usual attitude. I can occasionally do the right thing. We talked for another hour, awkwardly at first, then with increasing honesty. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, too much water under the bridge for that. But it felt like the beginning of a different kind of relationship. One based on who we actually were, not the roles we'd been assigned in our family drama. As Logan was leaving, he turned back with unexpected vulnerability in his eyes. Hey, if you get that job in Boston, maybe I could visit sometime? See what your life is like there? I'd like that, I said, and meant it. Later that night, as I sat alone in my quiet dorm room, my phone rang. It was Thomas from the library. Sorry to call so late, he said, but I just heard from my friend at the consulting firm in Boston. They want to make you an offer. The salary is competitive, and they're impressed with your work ethic. I smiled, feeling a sense of possibility opening before me. Thank you for the recommendation, Thomas. This means everything. You earned it, Madison. Every bit of it. 1 month after graduation, I stood in my nearly empty dorm room, surrounded by boxes. The Boston job offer had come through. A junior consultant position with potential for rapid advancement. The salary wasn't extraordinary, but it was enough for a modest apartment in Cambridge and a fresh start. More importantly, it was something I had earned entirely on my own merit. Sarah sat cross-legged on the floor, helping me sort through the last of my belongings. I still can't believe you're really leaving, she said, carefully wrapping a framed photo of us from freshman year. But I'm so proud of you for taking this step. I can hardly believe it myself, I admitted. But it feels right. The month since graduation had brought unexpected changes in my family dynamic. There had been no dramatic transformation, my parents hadn't suddenly become perfectly attuned to my needs, but there were small shifts that suggested they were at least trying. The previous weekend, my father had asked me to lunch, just the two of us, something that had never happened before. We sat across from each other at a small cafe in Greenwich, initially awkward without Logan or my mother to fill the silence.
I've been thinking a lot about what you said, he finally offered, stirring his coffee unnecessarily. About always feeling overlooked. I waited, giving him space to continue. I think, he said slowly, I assumed that because you were so capable, you didn't need as much from me. I focused on Logan because he seemed to need more guidance, more attention. He looked up, meeting my eyes. But that wasn't fair to you. No, I agreed. It wasn't. I can't change the past, he continued. But I want you to know that I see how hard you've worked, how much you've accomplished on your own. And I'm sorry I wasn't there for more of it. It wasn't everything, but it was something. An acknowledgement I'd been waiting years to hear. I'd like to help with your moving expenses, he added. Not because you need it, but because I want to support this new chapter. Initially, I wanted to refuse, to prove I could do it entirely on my own. But I realized that accepting help didn't diminish my independence. Sometimes support was just support. Thank you, I said. I'd appreciate that. My mother's attempts at connection were more awkward but equally sincere. She'd invited me for coffee the day after my lunch with Dad, clearly having coordinated their efforts. Boston has some beautiful neighborhoods, she said, having researched the city extensively on her laptop. The Back Bay area is supposed to be very trendy for young professionals. It's also very expensive, I pointed out. I'll be in Cambridge, near the river. She nodded, absorbing this information. You know, I've never lived more than 20 miles from where I grew up, she said unexpectedly. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to start fresh somewhere new. I saw something in her eyes then,
a hint of envy, perhaps, or regret. It occurred to me that my mother's favoring of Logan might have been about more than just preferring his personality. Perhaps she saw in Logan the confident, popular person she had been, and in me the serious, ambitious path she might have chosen if she'd been braver. "It's not too late," I suggested gently, "to try new things." She smiled sadly. "Some road's close behind you, but I'm proud that you're taking yours." The word proud hung between us, unfamiliar but welcome. Even Logan had shown surprising growth. True to his word, he had returned the Tesla, asking our parents to put the money toward my student loans instead. Whether this change would last remained to be seen, but it felt like a significant step. A knock at the door pulled me from my reflections. Sarah opened it to reveal my parents and Logan, come to help with the final moving preparations. "We brought lunch," my mother announced, holding up bags from my favorite deli. "And packing tape. Your father read online that you always need more tape than you think." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity, boxing final items, loading my father's SUV, and cleaning the room. The dynamic between us was still finding its footing, conversations sometimes falling into awkward silences, but the effort on all sides was tangible. As we prepared to convoy to Boston, my parents driving the loaded SUV while I followed in my newly reliable used car, a graduation gift from Grandma Carol, Logan pulled me aside. "I found this," he said, handing me a small box. It was in our storage closet at home. Inside was a faded blue ribbon, my first place award from the elementary school science fair all those years ago, the one my parents had missed because Logan had a cold. "I don't know why I kept it," Logan admitted. "Maybe even then I knew it mattered." I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and saw something new. Not the golden child who had everything handed to him, but a young man beginning to recognize his role in our family's complicated dynamic. "Thank you," I said simply, tucking the ribbon into my purse. The drive to Boston marked both an ending and a beginning. As Greenwich faded in my rearview mirror, I felt a weight lifting, not the complete resolution of 24 years of family history, but the liberation of having finally spoken my truth. My new apartment was tiny but mine. A clean slate in a city where no one knew me as Logan's sister, or the responsible one. As my parents helped carry boxes up 3 flights of stairs, I watched them taking in the modest space with new eyes, not judging but seeing my choice as valid on its own terms. After everything was unloaded, we stood awkwardly in the small living area, the moment of departure hanging between us. "Well," my father said, jingling his car keys, "I guess we should hit the road if we want to make it back before dark." "Thank you," I said, "for helping with the move." "Of course," my mother replied. "That's what family does." The phrase struck me as both ironic and hopeful, a statement of what should have been all along and perhaps what could be going forward. As they prepared to leave, my mother pulled me into a hug, tighter and longer than any I could remember. "I'm so proud of you, Madison," she whispered. I should have said that more often. After they left, I stood alone in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes yet to be unpacked and a future yet to be written. The journey from invisibility to empowerment wasn't complete. Such transformations never are. But I had taken the crucial first step of recognizing my own worth, regardless of whether others could see it. My phone pinged with a text from Grandma Carol. "How does it feel to be exactly where you're meant to be?" I smiled, looking out the window at my new city stretching before me like the beginning of something important. "Like coming home to myself," I typed back. The subway ride to graduation had been painful, but perhaps necessary. The final indignity that pushed me to claim my voice and my value. In the end, the greatest graduation gift wasn't a car, or even recognition from my parents. It was the discovery that I could stand in my own light, create my own celebrations, and build a life that honored my worth, whether others recognized it or not. As I unpacked my first box, I came across the journal Thomas and my library coworkers had given me. Opening it, I found a quote they had inscribed on the first page. "Your worth is not determined by others' ability to see it." I ran my fingers over the words, thinking of Dr. Rodriguez's commencement speech, the kind strangers on the subway, Grandma Carol's unwavering support, and all the people who had seen me clearly when my own family couldn't. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when it felt like no one else would? or found yourself taking the subway while someone else got the Tesla? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life stories, and share it with someone who might need a reminder of their own worth. Remember, sometimes the most important journeys start with a single subway ride, or a single moment of standing in your truth. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep shining your light, even when others don't see it.